Hey, it's Tom Stewart here. I've got a very cool bonus episode for you to check out. Every year during the month of October, I get to co-host on a podcast called Behind the Funny. It's hosted by two friends of mine, Scott Higgins and Aceto. We like to jokingly call it Scottober, because we basically spend the month trying to scare Scott with stories about the paranormal. And every year, I reach out to some of my friends in the paranormal field to help me do that. And this is one of the episodes from this year with none other than Dustin Pari from Ghost Hunters and Ghost Hunters International. Dustin is an uplifting, positive guy with lots of spiritual and paranormal knowledge and some creepy stories too. We had a lot of fun chatting with him, so I hope you'll give this episode a listen and be sure to check out Behind the Funny for more episodes that you can binge.
Be careful. He's
and Scott Higgins, both of them coked up out of their minds.
Listen to you. He's down in the basement. Yeah. Oh, I love that.
I think we should call this the Acement.
The Acement, yes.
Yeah, what do you think there, huh?
I like that. The Acement Studios.
Excuse me, I'm drinking beer. Hold on a second.
We usually drink bourbon on our end
Yeah,
when we
right.
do the podcast, so
That's all right.
feel free to enjoy yourself.
Yeah, exactly. You shoot an 8-ball if you want. We don't care, as long as it's good stories.
Welcome to the Acement, everybody. This is Scott Higgins.
And this is Aceto.
And with us tonight, our honorary Scottober
host. It's that time of year again. It's the most wonderful time
Can't
of
believe
the
it's already
year.
been a year.
Where
Yes.
Scott shits his pants on a weekly basis.
Well, anyway,
It's
I
so
just
weird.
dropped in to say hello real quick before
Yeah.
you guys start.
Oh,
And
door's locked.
I'll see you.
No, get your ass down here.
Ah, son of a bitch.
Pussy. No, we're so excited to kick off Scottober.
Yes.
We have an amazing guest. Before we get to our guest, though, we do have to give a shout out to our bourbon date.
First time bourbon date.
This is a first time. We've had this before,
Not
but
on
not
the show.
Oh, we didn't.
We have never had this on the show.
I thought we had this brand, but not this year.
Maybe,
That-
but I know we've definitely not had
Yeah,
this
not
one
this
on the
one.
show. This shows how much we drink that we don't remember if we've had it on the show.
I don't
or not.
remember. Right. All I know is it's
but
good.
it's fantastic. If you haven't had this before, Old Forester, which is a great brand by itself,
Yes.
but this particular one, 1870, is fantastic.
There's
very
literally
smooth.
like 6 years different batches. There's like
There's
a
so
prohibition
many.
batch from like 1920 or
Yeah,
something.
yeah.
This is the 1870 original batch. Really good.
They're a great distiller, but this one is a very smooth, very easy sipping one. So if you like Old Forester, this is a highly recommended brand.
Absolutely. But
looks good.
let's. I know we're
I don't drink,
teasing
but it
you.
looks good.
I know.
It looks good.
I know.
I had my bourbon days. Believe me.
Yeah. Well, we're still
I
having
brought a couple of things. I know we want to get to our guests real
Yes.
quick. First and foremost, it's Halloween, so I had to bring some candy. So let me
Oh, that's right.
When
The Halloween candy this year.
I get nervous though when guys like Tom.
You thought he was going to bring out a K2 meter?
I didn't know if he
personalized?
was going to bring out like a
Keyboard.
monkey's foot or something
no,
like
no,
that.
That's Cody and Satori.
That's right. That's
So
right.
I went old school to Hershey's miniature.
Nice.
Awesome.
Thank you, Tom.
Loving it.
Always some good stuff in there.
Great.
So-
I'm going to
Yes.
gain 15 pounds this month like I need to.
But
Thanks,
I was,
buddy.
I was out thrifting about a week ago, and I saw something in the store, and I was like, that would be great for the Acement.
Yeah.
Something for you guys to put on a shelf or wherever you want.
Yeah.
So I thought I'd give it to you now.
Well,
Oh, nice.
Thank you, sir. What a way to kick off the month.
This is, for
Is
you
it-
guys.
baby. It's Austin Powers bobblehead, baby.
That's gonna
How
go.
cool is
right-
that?
That
We'll
goes
put
right
that
up by
right
the.
right up here.
Yep.
I mean, that you can even take it out of the box. That's how
I don't
special
take
it
shit
is.
out of the box.
Oh, yeah, I
The
do.
year we had the Pee Wee Herman dolls all in the studio, they
Yeah.
were all still in their boxes staring at Scott.
Oh, yeah.
Creeped
And
them
I
out.
think they moved.
Oh,
Yeah.
boy. Well, he's
I don't
he's
like-
a bobblehead. He might move.
I
He's
don't
gonna
like
move.
dolls in the studio. We've
Yeah.
learned that before.
No,
Yes.
But
Again, Cody and Satori, thank you.
Yeah.
But anyway, we want to definitely get to our guests tonight because
Yes, please.
once again, you guys come through with amazing guests during Scottober.
I got to thank Tom because this guy, obviously, we've been fans of his for years. I
You
saw him.
You guys have mentioned him previous October.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Oh,
yeah.
And then I'll give him my brush with him when he comes on that he won't remember, but I do. But yeah. You know, we've had Jason Hawes on from Ghost Hunters. We had Steve Gonzalez on last year to talk about his book, and we're like, I'd love to get some of the other Ghost Hunters folks on, even from past seasons. And when you said that you could get this guy, I was
hoping.
like, please.
I knew he was a good guy, and he's a Rhode Islander. And,
That's right.
And has a great reputation as being a nice guy, so we'll reach out.
And
We'll
a
see.
great paranormal investigator. I always loved his parts of the old school show.
Very busy all the time, so I'm glad he took the time to do
Yeah,
this.
no, we appreciate it. So, welcome to Behind the Funny podcast for the very special Scottober, Mr. Dustin Pari.
Hey guys, how y'all doing today?
Dustin?
Thank you so much, man, for coming on. Let me make you big on the screen.
Oh, thank you. Can I ask a
Lovely.
quick question here?
Yeah.
What's out of the Hershey's miniature bag? Which one is your favorite one? What's the go-to?
Oh, let's go
Special
around.
dark.
That's mine,
I'm a
too.
Special dark.
You guys like the special dark?
Yeah.
I love the special
I'm a
dark.
crackle guy myself.
Crackle's mine. Yeah, I love
There you
Crackle.
go.
Is
See?
it?
You don't see the big Crackle bars much anywhere.
No,
but
you really
You
don't.
get the miniature forms of them only.
Yeah.
I don't
Yep.
think you see the big ones of any of these. Really.
No,
I don't
ex-
see the special
I
dark
don't think
big
they make
ones
a
either.
special dark.
Crackle and the what is the Mr. Goodbar? I think only come in the miniatures now.
think
Oh,
so.
really? Oh.
It's a damn
Well-
shame. You gotta glue them all together so you can have one big chocolate.
One big
experience.
one, and then break it apart and
Yeah.
say it's just one square of the bigger part.
Miniature.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have a sugar headache by the end of this
No
episode.
shit.
That's
I'm
for
gonna
sure.
weigh 400 pounds by the end of this week.
You know what I recently discovered, which has become a problem for me? Betty Crocker now makes a Oreo filling flavored frosting, like
Oh,
a
get
cake
out.
frosting.
Yep.
I ate a half a tub the first
Not
time.
even realize it, right?
I was just spooning through. You know, I'm
Yeah.
sitting there watching wrestling, and I'm like, I ate half of this damn thing, but it's so delicious. It's amazing.
And now I'm probably going to ruin this for you, but have you ever looked at the ingredients? Do you know what's in?
No, don't do
cake
that. Don't look
frosting?
at them.
Why would you look at ingredients? You're one of those people?
I was
All
in
right, I won't
Texas
do
last
it.
week.
Yeah.
And I was drinking their they had that big red soda down there. I don't like a lot of
Oh,
soda.
yeah.
It's got like a rum in it. But when I'm in Texas, I'll drink the big red. And I was at this outdoor event at the Black Swan Inn, and it was 96 degrees, and I drank 4 big reds. And I looked at it, I'm like, there's 64 grams of sugar in each one of them. I was like, I just got diabetes from hanging out in Texas. Like,
You almost lost a foot just from that week.
It was so delicious, though. It was wonderful. It was a wonderful time.
I haven't had Big Red, but I've heard about it. No.
It's something. They have a big
Catch
blue.
worse
They get a
things
big.
in
They have a big pineapple, but I stick with the
Oh,
traditional
really?
big red.
The OG.
Well, that's like in Pennsylvania. They have their birch beer soda.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's a clear root beer
like that
flavored
one.
soda. It's delicious.
They have another.
Good stuff.
They have another one, Pips, down in down south.
It's kind
too.
of like Dr. Pepper.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dr. Pip or whatever it is.
Yeah,
I like
yeah.
Fago too. Fago's like our Fanta soda. Like when you're
Oh,
out,
really?
out in Detroit, yeah, they Red Pop, Rock and Rye. It's all garbage. man.
Nice.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, it's like Fanta. Yeah.
And if you're just tuning in, this is the Soda Pop podcast.
Soda podcast.
Soda
No.
and candy, no ghosts.
Listen, we really appreciate you coming on. This is so I don't know if Tom gave you the background on this. So we're comics. We're local comedians. We have been doing this podcast now, what, 8 years now?
This is our 8th season.
This is our 8th season. We do typically we talk to comics from throughout the country, comic writers, comic actors, stuff like that. And we had Tom on once because the name of the show is Behind the Funny. And so we had Tom on as a comic, but we were like, what else do you do? What's behind Tom Stewart besides doing comedy? And he started talking about being a former paranormal investigator. Tom was nice enough to bring in some EVPs that night, and it was the quietest I had ever seen my
wouldn't-
co-host.
I wouldn't define it as nice enough.
I know. Well, it was the quietest I'd ever seen my co-host, and there were beads of sweat on his forehead. And I looked at him and I go, dude, how come you're so quiet? And he goes, I don't like this shit. And so that was all I needed to hear to turn it into a full month worth of
That
Scottober.
was the funniest night because
Yeah.
he was so quiet. You and I were talking all these things.
We were
and he
geeking
didn't have
out,
a-
and
he
yeah.
didn't say
They
a
were
peep.
so into it, they forgot I was in the room.
Yeah,
even
yeah.
until they realized they hadn't heard from me for about 25 minutes.
Yeah.
Is it still spooky for you? Is it still like a little?
Well, I've come a long way. I
He
think
has.
I've done investigations with them.
We brought him out.
and I've learned a lot about it. But it's still a cautious thing for me.
All right.
Yeah.
It's not.
That's good.
It's not. I'm cautiously interested because I like how Tom approaches it from a kind of a scientific standpoint as far as investigations go and everything. Though he did scare the shit out of me one night when we were at the Payne house. It was kind of a funny thing. We'll tell you, we were up in the attic, and he's like, "Oh, up here, sometimes we hear it's like an old man growling. We've picked up some EVPs and stuff." So we're standing there, and Tom's asking questions, and all of a sudden I hear this noise, and I go, "Tom, I just heard something." He goes, "Yeah, that's a car outside going by." And so we're sitting there a few more minutes, and then all of a sudden I hear something again. I go, "Tom, there it is again." He goes, "Same car going the other way."
Yeah. Yeah. He
That was my very first
was a packy run.
investigation,
Yeah.
though. In all fairness,
That was his first investigation, so he was a little bit nervous. But we have, prior to all controversy, we did do an investigation at the Conjuring House,
An overnight.
an overnight investigation,
Yeah.
and he held his own. He was very calm and collected at that investigation.
Till you locked me in the basement.
Well, I kept saying, "Hey, Scott, we're going upstairs. They want us upstairs," and he was on his phone texting, and so I went upstairs and I closed the door on him.
Yeah, it serves you right.
These two need their own show. They're like the odd couple.
Yeah,
of
the
Paranormal.
paranormal
That would be
comics.
great.
the paranormal odd couple.
Yeah.
Well, it's something that Dustin, that I've never disbelieved because I've had experiences. I've had people in my family that have had experience, so it's not something I didn't believe, but it's like something that, hey, if you can avoid it, don't worry about it. But now that I have people in my life that are active in it and have done investigation stuff, it's like, all right, well, I guess I got to kind of face it a little bit and kind of get into it. And now I am interested. But, I'm not ready to go by myself and spend the night there or anything like that. But I do want to know more about it. I am interested, and I love asking questions and having conversations with people like yourself that have done, a lot of serious investigations and things, so I can understand it more. Because I think the more you understand, the less fear you have.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, the more you do, the more experience you have, the more you start to understand things.
Exactly.
And like I always tell people, like, listen, it's not false bravado. Like with me, like when I go do an investigation, I'm not afraid of what I'm trying to investigate. But don't ask me to go to one of those like pay to walk through haunted house things. I hate that shit. That scares the absolute hell out of me. I always think that guy with the chainsaw, he's been waiting all year, and this is going to be his moment to actually cut people up. I don't want to be part of any of that stuff. But actual spirit activity, I'm down for that all day.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So what got you into it? Everyone has their own origin story of what got them initially interested in paranormal. Did you have an experience, or was it just you saw a show, or you saw the Warrens come around and talk? What was it?
So my gateway ghost, as I pointed them out, happened when I was just about 9 years old. I was living down in Providence, Rhode Island, like the Eagle Park area, down near Mr. Lemon over there.
Yeah, I used to live down there too.
Nice. Yeah, that's right. I used to live there in Salina Street is where I grew up.
I was on Virginia Lane.
Virginia Lane.
On the other side of the ball field. You know the ball field behind Mr. Lemon?
Yeah.
For those of you following on Google Maps.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah,
right? Yeah, I used to live there.
Yeah, indeed. My best friend, that's Mr. Lemon's, his family's
really?
lemonade shop. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So I grew up in that area, and I lived there. I moved there when I was 7, lived there until I was 17. Only had one spiritual interaction at that house. I was about 9 years old, and I was in bed. Family's still awake. Small house. Family's down the end of the hallway. The lights on out there. They're watching TV, and something just kind of struck me, like felt weird. And as I scanned across the room looking, there in the doorway was what we would now classify as a shadow figure. And so if anybody hasn't seen an actual shadow figure, usually if you're ever going to like a gas station on a really hot day and you see like the vapors and the fumes come over, or if you've seen any of the Predator movies when they go invisible, it's got that shimmery type, exterior, but in the shape of a person. Now there's other ones with Hat Man and they have a cape and all this other crap. I just had the basic humanoid shape one. And I just was frozen staring at this thing, trying to figure out how there's a freestanding shadow there. And I know my parents are awake. They're in the living room watching TV, but I can't bring myself to yell or do anything. Right. And it's like all I could just to like pull the covers up over my head. And I said every prayer I learned in Catholic school. I'm like, I just want this shit to go away. I never want to see this again.
Right.
And I never did. Well, I lived there, but then it started me on this quest where it's been, I've been investigating now for 32 years actively. Wow. I started when I was 15, going out looking at places. And I look for shadow figures all the time,
So that didn't scare you. It more was like, I need to understand what that was.
Yeah, I mean, at the time I was frightened. At the time I was terrified.
At 9 years old,
Yeah,
but that seed in my head, and I was like, I need to find out more about this. And because I'm old, and we didn't have Google, I had to go to the library. Yeah, the North Providence Library I would go to over there next to the old Pizza Hut, and I would go in and try to find books about like New England hauntings, Rhode Island legends, that kind of stuff. And then once I was old enough to go with my buddies, start driving around, we'd go to places like the Lad School here in Rhode Island, which they demolished most of it now. Old Witches Road down in Smithfield area.
Smithfield, Yep.
There was a funeral parlor that was on, I can't remember, it was at Admiral Street on the way to like Chad Brown over there. It was boarded up when I was a kid. My buddies and I would go ride our bikes there, and we'd pull the plywood off the windows. Don't do this stuff. But we would off the windows and slip inside to the old abandoned funeral parlor. And there was like a beat up old casket in there. So we'd go there and like see how long you can stay in the casket, There was also like a late 70s Playboy in there, so that was great for the neighborhood guys.
Yeah, right.
Don't take the Playboy in the casket with you. That was forbidden. But other than that, you could do whatever.
You two will never get me to go in a casket. I'll tell you that right now. You got me to do an investigation. Caskets are out.
How about a refrigerator morgue box?
No. Well, if you give me a Playboy to take in there with me, I might go.
We could arrange that.
I'm not going in a coffin either. Don't worry about it.
No, I would.
I'll chase spirits, but I don't want to.
I would be very curious about the amount of ectoplasm when we pulled you out of that.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
What happened here?
Yeah.
Wow, he had a bad cold. He sneezed all over this Playboy.
Wow.
Now let me.
Thank God we're an explicit podcast.
How old were you when you were on an investigation where you came across something for the first time, like an EVP or some kind of evidence where you were like, I got something this time?
I did not start trying to record EVPs or anything until I started working with the TAPS group. I didn't know there were teams. I didn't know there were crews out there doing this. I just thought it was like myself, my random buddies. We would just go out, look at places. I remember being at the Lad School, when I was a young teenager driving around, and I remember seeing other people there running around doing the same kind of thing, and you see shadows, you'd get scared. You'd hear a lot of noises, but you never knew who else was in there running around too. Right. But I didn't actually start investigating with equipment or anything because I didn't really know that much about that part of the field.
Right.
I would just kind of go as an observer to see if I find that shadow like I saw when I was a kid. Like that was my Grail quest at the time. That's all I wanted to see. And it started there. And I remember seeing shadow figures out in the woods around the old Lad School. And I was like, okay, like I'm onto something. Like I'm not crazy. These things are actually out here,
Mm-hmm. So how did you get hooked up with TAPS?
So I was the original fanboy. I would come home. I was working. I've been in healthcare for 22, 23 years now. Yeah. And by day I work in oral surgery, doing anesthesia as an assistant. At night I would work in ambulance company. And then when I would come back home, maybe flick it through TV, and I saw Ghost Hunters season 1, and I'm like, who the hell are these guys? Like, what is this? And again, I had no idea they were crews. I didn't know you could go in people's houses to investigate. And then I caught a second episode, and I saw the Warwick Water Tower. I was like, oh, that's like minutes from my house. I'm like, these guys are local. So I emailed everybody, I was like, hey, somebody get in touch with me. Like I worked for locally for CBS 12 and Fox 64 for years after college as a show editor, camera operator. I'm like, I know how to run all your equipment, your DVR stuff. And nobody got back to me. Not one person bothered. to write me back. So I stayed persistent. I tried driving by their headquarters down on Apponaug at the time.
Oh, yeah, back then.
The mail slot, nobody there. And I just kept emailing until somebody got back to me. And I got to meet Jay and Grant at a little coffee house and told them what my experiences have been. And they told me I could be part of the team, but I couldn't be on the show, which was fine because I already had 2 jobs and I was busy, you know. So I started working with the home team. And after a couple of months, they were doing a case in Warwick at one of the old fire departments there. And I got to go and be on the show for the first time. Wow. And I was so crazy for me because I went from being a camera operator to being in front of the camera. And I'm working with these guys that I've been watching on TV for for the first year. So it was very surreal, and it was an amazing experience. And it just it's led to so much more for me. I get to go to GHI. I get to go to 27 countries, something like that.
Right. Wow.
So it's been a whirlwind, man, and very thankful for it. And that's why I tell people, like, that friggin' first shadow figure, man, that put me on this whole other path. Like, I don't even care what the hell it was anymore because now I realize it just changed my whole reality for me.
Right.
I remember reading, or maybe it was an interview, or maybe it was your book, but I realized that you and I had a very similar way of getting into the paranormal. You know, I had an experience, and then I reached out to teams to try and become part of it and stuff.
Yeah.
But I remember it was, and I'm paraphrasing something I think you said, was that you kind of was interested because you wanted to figure out what was going on. You kind of wanted to find some answers for yourself. And you said that you had found some of those answers and that you're pretty satisfied with what you've seen, and now you just kind of do it to help the field. But at what point did you figure out there really is something going on here? Was it like a spiritual thing for you, or?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It was a very spiritual thing. And I know a lot of people, it's always weird. It's, I grew up in Catholic school. And then by the time I graduated, I was just kind of like, just on my own, like, just a non-hateful atheist, which is fine. If you don't believe in things, that's fine. Just don't be hateful toward people that do.
Who do, right.
And so I bounced around for a while, and I kind of feel like our spirituality path is natural and different for all of us, and I think it's always good to ask questions and never just take what you're being force fed. And eventually I get to a point where, I was done partying. I was done going to clubs and hanging out all the time. I was looking for more in my own life. And I started to kind of research my own spirituality and go to different churches and studied Buddhism and Taoism. And I was really enjoying the spiritual path. And eventually I landed back in Christianity for me. But what I tell people, what I really believe to be the most true, is that the paranormal has shown me we are all spirits just going through this human experience. I don't believe that we're from here, and I don't believe that our spirit stays here. And it's totally cool. Like, we don't all have to sing from the same hymnal. Like, you can believe spirits are trapped here and don't move on unless, you get your crystals and Susie Psychic and sage them to the other side. I don't believe that. I don't think that a loving God or goddess, however you want to choose to believe, would ever be like, no, heaven's not for you. You're stuck here. Right. I think it's not that far away. And spirits had the ability to come and check in on us. And I use this same analogy all the time. We're still alive right now, and we haunt ourselves all the time. I was driving through my old neighborhood in Salina Street just a couple of weeks ago. Yeah. I drove by my old grade school. I drove down the hill, that Dead Man's Hill. We would take our bikes when we were little kids. Yeah. Like, we're going back to those places now while we're still here. So, of course, when you pass away, you might want to check out the place you used to work, or the place you had your first love interest or whatever it was. So I think that people get caught up in media and movies and old books and stories and think that everyone's trapped and everyone doesn't know they're dead. I'm like, bullshit. Right. They've had a bowel movement forever. They haven't had to go to work. There's no mozzarella stick. No one's getting laid. They figured out that they're not here, But but if you want to believe that, that's still cool. Like, we could still be friends. Like, it's okay to have different beliefs. But I realized for me that we just go through this experience and then we move on from here. Do we come back? Reincarnation? Do we need to learn more? It's all possible. I hope I'm not, because I'm freaking exhausted from this life.
Well, it's funny. It's funny you say that, because we have, there are times when you talk about visiting stuff like that, you have vivid dreams about, I mean, I had a dream a couple weeks ago about events that happened when I was a kid in my old neighborhood, that I woke up and I like, I was shocked that I was in now because the dream was so vivid that I thought I was back there and then. And it makes you think. Or sometimes are your dreams? Or is it your soul, if you believe you have a soul, visiting that time and place? Because it's so vivid and real when you're in that dream and in that moment. And
what about when it's a dream that's recurring that wasn't from your past,
right?
But you keep I keep going back to this dream of a house. It's the same house every time. I have never lived in this house. I've never been in this house, but I keep going back to this dream every once in a while. I'll have it, and I'm like, well, I don't know. Was that a past life? I have no idea.
And wasn't it Joe Chin when we had him on talk about parallel timelines? And
it was Jason, and I was going to get to that.
Okay,
we had a discussion about with Jason about. The whole concept of, if you've seen The Shining, when he's in the bar at the hotel and everyone around him is from the 1920s and he's sitting there from the 70s. And, could time be bending on itself? Because when you go into a room and you say something and you hear a voice say, "Who's that?" Could that be someone from, who's long gone that is now hearing you thinking you're a ghost?
The whole idea of time slips, time being layered. My friend Mike Ricksecker, you may see him once in a while on Ancient Aliens and such.
Yes,
he
great
has,
show.
I love it, man. That's my favorite when I'm on the road. I sit in the hotel room, get a pizza, and watch Ancient Aliens. I'm a happy boy. But Mike has a great book about the shadow dimension and a new one about time. And I have lectures based on both those concepts as well. And I really feel like a lot of times we are interacting with maybe that other time period just kind of bleeding over a little bit for whatever reason that may be.
Right.
And it's interesting. And there's, even cases that have been documented where I know what's happened to Jane Grant. I know one of the stories that Mike tells where the one that Mike is written in his book, there's a young boy who lives in this home. And when he walks into the kitchen one day, he sees a tall shadow figure behind the island counter. Scared, terrified, he runs down the hallway. Guy lives there his whole life. He's in his mid-30s or whatever. He's there making a sandwich in the kitchen behind the island. He looks up, he sees a small shadow figure look in the door at him and then run down the hallway. So are we haunting ourselves sometimes?
Wow.
So all this stuff is definitely possible. And just to talk quickly about, you're talking about the dreamscape, very big, especially in Native American culture, the belief that when we're dropping into REM sleep and coming out of REM sleep, the spirit world is very close to us. And I think it makes sense too, because our world is so damn noisy all the friggin' time. Like this constant beeping and buzzing and bullshit, and you just can't relax. And I feel like when we're in that stage, we are starting to be perceptive of things that maybe are there normally, but we're so busy staring at our phones that we're missing this damn stuff. And that's a lot of time where we get visitation from loved ones who've passed on that are standing there at the side of the bed or at the end of the bed, or you might hear whispers of words from somebody that you can't see. And I really feel like there's something to be said about coming in and coming out of those REM cycles and just not being so distracted about everything else that's around us.
Yeah, that's
that
great
story
point.
that you told about Mike is so crazy, because that's exactly what I was, as you were telling the story, I'm like, I wonder if that's what's going to happen. He's haunting himself. Mm-hmm. If you think about the fact that, what are we measuring when you're on an investigation? You're measuring electromagnetic energy. Mm-hmm. Certain earthen rocks, like limestone, they say holds electromagnetic energy. So if maybe our soul or our being is electromagnetic energy, what's to say it just doesn't pass on and stick around?
Right. We're all just energy and vibration and frequency. So I have a new event series I do called Spirit Quest, and they're all limited to 15 people or less, and it's a low-tech investigation. We don't really use much equipment, but we do experiments with collective consciousness. How can we mentally connect to each other? We do scrying sessions, and there's lectures and experiments with vibration and frequency and how we can use that to connect better to the other side. There's something that I would use a lot of times on investigations off camera, where it was just this resonating frequency sound I have recorded on my phone. And I kind of would just send it out almost like a signal to try to see if I could get other spirits to hear that, and to come closer to this sound, so we might be able to interact. So you might be able to hear me. Maybe you can't see me. And there's so many ways for us to connect with the other side that don't have to be, light this up. I love it. It's like, light this up to red. I'm like, what the hell does it mean? Like, oh, it lit up to red. I'm like, great, but there's no communication. Yeah. There's nothing going on beyond that, So we need to kind of dial out some of the tech stuff. It's good, to want to quantify the amount of EMF or whatever you're capturing. But unless you really have a communication, understanding what you're doing, who you're talking to, you're just tracking energy signals, which is cool.
Right.
But there's going to be more to it.
You're not deciphering anything. And that's what I love about, and I know we're going to have him on again, but that's what I love about with Cody and Satori's method, the knocking, is you're not just hearing knocking. There's an intelligence to it. Yeah. There's something to it.
Absolutely. Yeah, I don't need texting from the other side. I'm good. I'm good. I don't need that.
I was going to ask you something about that. Related to that is, you've worked with tons of different equipment on the shows and on your own, but is there a method or a tool that you think should be invented or be looked into that's not being widely used right now? Or maybe...
It's funny. I a little tongue in cheek, but I did tweet to Elon Musk recently, because he was talking about that Neuralink that they're developing, which is a little bit scary because I don't want robots in my head, but I can appreciate that they're looking at things that can help people, who've been visually impaired their whole lives. Maybe we could stimulate the part of the cortex or the portion of the brain that will allow them to see images. And he had mentioned in one of his interviews that they may be able to not only do that, but then tweak it so that we can see down into infrared. And I was like, now we use a lot of infrared with investigating, but my experiments and my research, for me, has shown that a lot of times spirit. So if we classify things real quickly, right? So intelligent spirit, people that have passed away, they seem to come out of the ultraviolet portion of the light spectrum, in my experience. Really? And if we shine infrared light into that field, a lot of times we get them ducking in and then they duck out right away. And I read a book by some researchers down in South America, and they had mentioned that they believed IR light to be harmful to those spirits. And I was like, I don't know how it would be harmful, but I do know that when I have a camera and I'm shooting infrared and somebody else is shooting infrared and we cross the streams, you get that bright light like you're staring into a lighthouse, and you're like, oh, really? I see that. So maybe they're perceiving the IR light as something that is off-putting. So Barry Fitzgerald and I, when we were on GHI, what we started to do is we would tape off the IR light as much as we could. And what we would do is then set up small lanterns with red light and put those on the floor in the area we want to investigate. Take your IR light, shove it on the back wall, and just light up that whole wall. So now if something walks by those red lights, you may see a little bit of it, but because the back wall is fully lit up without the light contaminating the field, you're getting great contrast when someone walks by. But boosting the ultraviolet portion of the light spectrum, that's where I'm seeing more of the activity come forward, more visual evidence. And so I think we could do a lot more with that. But unfortunately, we've been preoccupied with light balls and K2 meters and REM pods and things, which have their purpose and have their place. But I just feel like, and the other thing too is, listen, you don't have to prove shit to anybody. Like, believe what you want to believe. I could go out and be the most honest investigator in the world and capture the best photo ever, and people are going to say it's AI. People are going to say it's not real.
Right.
That's fine. Just let them believe what they want. Like, don't go out of your way to try to prove anything to anybody. This should honestly be a personal spiritual experience. Yeah. And it can start out as a spooky thing that's just fun, and then maybe you don't want to do it anymore.
Well, that's the problem.
So reassuring if you stay with it.
Most of the gadgets are designed for instant gratification, as opposed to actually collecting data, or at least people are using them for the instant gratification. But when I've asked that question to other paranormal investigators that I respect in the field, all of them go to ultraviolet. I feel like that is the area of spectrum of light that we haven't really explored. And same for sound, ultrasound as well. It's things that we haven't really explored, and nobody's really focusing on equipment for it. We've had some ultraviolet photography cameras, I believe, but I don't know if there's any light sources or video cameras that do that.
We had some full spectrum video cameras that we use here and there, but the problem being, if we're filming the show, the show is flooding the field with IR light to capture us as we're walking around there. So it kind of it doesn't fully negate the purpose or defeat the purpose, but definitely causes a little bit of a combat because you're mixing those light sources from two opposite ends of the light. So that causes a bit of an issue. But there's so much to be done with vibration, sound, frequency, and the different levels of light that we get. And to your point, like our whole damn society is instantaneous. If we want to order shit on Amazon, we want it here in 2 days or less. We want everybody to text us right back. Like and it's not good for us as people either, man. It's maddening. You know,
no, there's too much because there's too much information coming at us from all times, and that's one of the things that I found. When we first did the Pain House investigation, so I live a mile up from the Pain House. It's right down the street from here. So when we first did the first investigation, you know, we didn't do an overnight like on Ghost Hunters. We didn't do, you know, late night. It was earlier in the night. It was like, you know, 8 o'clock. Yeah. There's so much contamination, and we weren't alone. There was a group of 12 or 15 of us that first time. Yeah. So as much as I appreciated being able to go in there, I would have loved to have been in on a closed investigation because, you know, all of a sudden you hear it creaking from the next room, but it's because there's 4 other people doing an EVP session in the other room. There's too much contamination, you know, like Scott said. You know, you
cars
got a car
driving
going
by, and you know.
Well, that's an important part of investigating is to definitely have a containment area.
Right.
Know that there's not other things affecting your data and evidence, if you want to call
well,
it
and that's
that.
why during the show they would send in, you know, you
send
know,
in 2 people to that section
at a time,
and they're not going to contaminate anyone else's evidence and vice versa.
Right.
But I also think that's, you know, the way some people are using a lot of the gadgets today. It's just, you know, it's kind of hurting the field because they're not really using it the way that it should be used to try to get to answers. They're just trying to get to a thrill.
Well, a lot of people, too, I feel have learned their investigation skills and tactics off of TV, which is fine. Like, I'm not trying to fault anybody, but you need to take time to understand that the shows are heavily edited, that you're not going to see everything that we do. And I've turned my events into more of instructional. Like, listen, this is an investigation, but it's going to be an investigation tutorial because with even my little groups of 15 people, we can't conduct a full investigation. You know, but we can use these opportunities to learn because when you see the show, you think we rapid fire EVP questions. Like, you don't think that we sit there for 3 or 4 minutes
waiting for a response.
Like you don't know how long that's going to take for them to come back, you know, and doing different experiments that I've learned from traveling and working with different people, things that harken back to the old spiritualist movement. You talk about like Cody and Satori with the knocking, which is still something we all still do today, but other things like sitting and holding hands almost as in a seance, connecting our energy, right? And then you sit there and everybody asks, and I've done this, and I've combined it with some tech stuff just to show people the power of it. So you get everybody, you sit them in a circle, right? You throw your EVP recorder down in the middle. You take your EMF tripwire, light up jump rope thing, or whatever meters you want. You put them all in one area where you can see the stuff. And then everybody asks the same question with the same exact verbiage. Don't change one word of it. And then when you feel enough time has occurred for the spirit to answer, you squeeze the person's hand next to you without a word. Now it's their turn to ask their question, same words. And then we wait and see when they're ready to squeeze the next person's hand. And you start to hone in that certain vibrations, certain frequencies, certain energies, just like in this life, like we're not all friends. We don't all attract to each other. Somebody in that group is going to be the person that will get the answers. And I did it in first time investigation for this Irish bar in Pennsylvania. And the whole night was kind of quiet. And I think, okay, well, the spirits here aren't used to all these gadgetry and nonsense. I'm explaining it as we're doing it. And the end of the night comes and the owner came back. She was an older woman, not quite elderly, but an older woman. And I'd already packed up everything. But because the night was so quiet, I thought to myself, you know, as I've seen in so many places before, it's usually the docent that gives the historical tour every day. It's usually the person that owns the house. That their energy
they're there all the time.
Yeah, exactly. So these spirits are familiar with them. So I had this woman come and sit in the circle and like, let's do this again. And by the time we got to her, as soon as she said, it was just saying goodbye and good night, I didn't have any recordings, but I wanted them to light up these devices. As soon as she said goodbye and goodnight, everything lit up at once, and then it was dead for everybody else because they knew her. And I was like, there's so much more about energy and vibration and familiarity, and then just the ways of connecting to see who's that person that's going to be able to get them.
I've seen that so many times. We went on investigations and nothing would happen until we would literally say, let's bring them in and see if something happens. And it always seems to help. And
well,
it's the familiarity. Yeah.
It's familiarity, and that's kind of goes back to when we had Ken DaCosta on the first time, and Ken said, well, yeah, that's like, imagine, you know, sometimes you get these investigators, and we won't name names because we've shit on them before, but you get these investigators that are like, you know, come at me, bro, come on, you know. And Ken was like, imagine someone walks into your house and starts yelling, come on, talk to me, let's go, come on, bro. Of course you're going to be like, go fuck yourself. I'm not going to do anything, right?
Yeah.
So being respectful of the spirits, but then to bring it to one step further, having that spirit have familiarity with the person, even weighs more.
Make the spirit comfortable.
Right.
I always tell people, you know, who ask me about this stuff, I always say, consider a spirit like a stray dog in your yard. You know, you're not going to just scream at it. You're going to scare it. You're going to try and be kind to it. You're going to try and show it that you're safe to be around.
Yeah.
And then it will come around and want to be in your space.
Yeah.
You know?
Well,
and so
for
I
sure.
always tell people, just think about being a spirit someday, and you don't know what's going on either.
Yeah.
And you can't figure out why no one's talking to you, why nobody can see you, how scared you must be. And then all of a sudden somebody starts talking to you. Like, just think of how awkward it is, and then approach it from that way.
Right.
You know?
I always tell people, think of it as the ultimate blind date, which is accurate because you can't see them either.
Right.
But when we ask questions, when we do EVP questions, something that I always try to impress upon the people I work with, give of yourself as well. So as an example, when I start my EVP questions, always introduce yourself first, right? So my name is Dustin, and I'm going to give you the answer to my question. So I say, my name is Dustin. My favorite drink is rum. Can you tell me your favorite drink? So I'm making them a little more familiar with me if they don't know me, if I've never investigated there before. Here's my name. Here's my thing that I'm talking about. And then I'm asking you to give me your input as well. And we're
making it a two-way conversation.
Yeah, exactly. Because if you just want to talk about yourself or you just want to interrogate them, there's no chance for that. And that come at me bro approach is equivalent to like making a harsh comment and somebody throwing a drink in your face. Like that's the end of the conversation. Like that's no good. But we were on the USS Salem up in Quincy. I was with Jawan Mass from Ghost Brothers a couple of months ago, and I did this with a group. And we're walking around. We're seated rather in one of the rooms, and I let everybody ask a question using that format, you know. And this woman mentions her favorite drink, and she asked for theirs. And over the device, and first time I heard this one, a woman's voice said Alabama Slammer. I was like, that's very specific.
Wow.
It was just so cool.
Yeah.
You know, I'm like,
that's a lot of
really,
syllables.
That was their drink.
Yeah. And now this was using one of the Ghost Box devices, which I honestly piss on a lot of them too, because a lot of them record what you say and then play it back later. It's such BS. You download the thing, it says need access to your microphone. I'm like, why? Do the spirits need this? Like that's bullshit. But so if you phrase the questions in such a way where you're not just kind of casting out a wide net, you know, just waiting for any word, and then we make a story out of it. Yeah, like we're only listening for drinks. When you ask your favorite drink, we're only listening for colors when you ask your favorite color. And then we get those. And what's really cool is in a group of 15 people, somebody asks for colors. I wait 2 minutes to go to the next person. We don't get colors anymore as answers. Now, if we get anything, it's tuned into what that person asked. I'm like, okay, well, this is showing intelligence. It's showing reliable answers that are verifiable. And the other thing I do to try to kind of coerce them in addition to the vibration sounds that I play, is I usually play music from the time period. So all these World War II ships and things like that, I play Glenn Miller, play some big band, like get them, like accustomed, be like, oh shit, I remember, like, don't we be happy? Let me go see what's going on. You know, like bring them in.
Yeah, that's kind of a trigger thing. I like your idea about using vibration and sound, because there's a lot of study going into that these days.
Yeah.
Where different megahertz or whatever can be used for different things, for relaxation, for health purposes, for, whatever, for anxiety or depression and things like that.
Yeah,
And
a lot
I
of
feel like
healing.
getting into sort of a meditation kind of would help you get more in touch with the things that are happening around you that we don't usually see because
Right.
we're usually, rushing around.
Because you're more inward focused, and then
that's-
you can.
That's something I'd like to try focusing on. Is
And you see like some of the like the YouTube videos you can search out how vibration in certain frequencies will always make the same geometric patterns.
Yeah.
Like tarts and things like that. So there's so much that's tuned into that. And I think that when we can do that, and even the Native Americans would, in some of the ceremonies, would whirl like a leather strap above their head and create that whirling kind of whirring sound, that vibration sound. And when they would try to open up the communication with spirit world and the different spirits that they would want to speak to. I had a gentleman who was a friend of mine in Massachusetts, and he was kind of like the holy person for that tribe. And even he said when he did his communication sessions, he would always use low level red lights. He would create that whirling kind of sound and then try to open up communication to the other side.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Native Americans always did that, even with their voice. They would all just kind of in sync,
right?
Make a, ooh, ooh,
right.
type stuff. And that was why they were doing it. It was to cause a vibration in order to get in touch with whatever spiritual thing they were trying to do. I tried listening to some of those oral beats. Like you can listen when you're sleeping, and it's just kind of like you can barely hear it or even not at all. It's just kind of dun, 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 while you're sleeping, and I have some crazy dreams.
Really?
Like I can't listen to it anymore because I have like horror movie dreams when I put that stuff on during.
You gotta change the frequency, man.
Oh, I've tried higher ones, lower ones, and it's it's really like it's like being on LSD or something, man. It's crazy. Try it some night. It's
no,
it'll
no,
flip
you're
out,
not.
man.
You didn't sell it very well at
you
all.
didn't sell
I'm
it,
not
man.
trying
Not to you.
it.
Not to you.
I'm
Dustin's
not
gonna
trying
try it.
Yeah, the binaural beats. Yeah, I've seen it.
You know that is, I mean, that was a great conversation about some different investigation tactics and different things like that. But let me ask you about. I mean, you've had an unbelievable career. What were some just amazing moments you've had, or some of your favorite investigations you've done? Because you've done, like you said, Ghost Hunters International. You've been to, what'd you say, 25 different countries?
Yeah, 25 or 27 countries. But I've been on 6 continents, and then all the years on Ghost Hunters.
Got to be tough to narrow it down.
Yeah, what were some of the amazing places or some of the cool investigations you've done?
And take your time, because I know you've never been asked this.
No,
before.
this is the first one.
Yeah.
Here in the States, the ones that really stand out to me that are meaningful. St. Augustine Lighthouse. We have video
that
there.
one comes up so much.
Oh, it was one of the best.
That's
what I love about it is Lighthouse is such an easy thing to cover, because you just need a camera on the front door, camera up the stairwell, and okay, if we see a shadow figure, we see movement, we hear voices in there, check those 2 cameras. Okay, nobody walked by the front door. Nobody got inside the building.
Right.
So when we have somebody leaning over the railing, it's very easily verifiable that it's nobody on the crew and not any of us. And then Brian and I actually saw a woman walking around the top. In my video that's in that episode, you just see this gray blur kind of walking back and forth around the top. But Brian and I were actually able to see the pleats in this woman's dress, the curls in her hair. And for me, this is after years. I mean, I was 9 years old and I see this first thing. And then to never see a full apparition. I mean, I saw some shadows in the woods, but to see a full apparition and be like, okay, like I'm a little bit off, but I wasn't crazy. Like these things really she's actually here. We heard her voice, we recorded it. So for that, St. Augustine will always be so close to my heart. Overseas, my favorite investigation I've ever done, we went to a place called the Clark Air Base out in the Philippines. And this was an outpost for our soldiers. I believe it was the end of World War II, and then it was also used again in Vietnam. Mm-hmm. And this place was really interesting. It was completely in disrepair. It was falling apart. But after the wars, they were going to repurpose it. And so the gentleman that was our client was the watchman, the night guard for the place. And he had told people that he had seen these white misty apparitions. He heard American soldiers talking in English. He heard footsteps. He saw shadows. And people said he was crazy. People said he was a drunk, that he was lying, that he was making things up. And I think the same thing happened to him that happened to me when I was a kid. He went so long without any validation or without ever seeing anything else, he started to question himself. Right. And it is the only place I've ever been that in the 2 or 3 nights that we investigated there, every night it was active. and we actually captured or witnessed everything that was on that laundry list of activity. So many other times we go to places, it's like, oh, we got a portal, we get a demon, Satan comes out and has a shot at 3 o'clock. None of that shit happened.
Right.
Yeah.
But this place, we saw the white misty apparition. We recorded the American voices many times talking back and forth to each other. We had visual evidence of the shadows. We recorded the footsteps. And when we played this for this guy, he just broke down in tears because he finally had that vindication.
Validation.
Exactly. The validation, the verification. This was real. He wasn't crazy. And finally he could show other people, you know. We actually had to stop filming because we just needed to console him and get him together so we
Right.
finish
So you
that
can finish the
scene,
segment.
you know?
Well,
But
I
it
think
was
his
so
culture
great.
doesn't. I don't think the Philippine culture really.
Yeah, it's
grasps
a lot
onto
of stuff they
spirituality like
believe, at least the people we encountered, a lot of them believe any of that stuff to either be nonsense or to be demonic, you know.
Yeah,
So there's
yeah.
there's very, at least with the people we interacted with, there was very little in between. But for him, it was so meaningful. And for me, it wasn't even just about documenting these things. It was having this impact on this guy's life and showing him, man, and that was honestly my thing with being on the show was I just want people to think about the bigger picture because like I've started doing motivational speaking and suicide prevention and mental health stuff since the show because I felt like it's given me that opportunity and that platform to do these things. And I was hoping that by showing people the evidence of the other side, they might start to think more about the way they live their lives while we're here because we're so like we're kept divided and distracted and dumbed down and drunk and drugged up. We're so freaking just trying to run on that hamster wheel to pay bills and sit in traffic in this god awful state that's 45 minutes wide, but for some reason it takes me an hour to go 10 miles in Rhode Island. We don't have time to think about these things sometimes. And I think
some bourbon. Run some bourbon.
Yeah, no
down to
shit.
him.
You should have come over, man.
I know, right? This would have
all
been
of a sudden. This turned into Lewis Black.
I need to top my drink off now.
Yeah, enjoy this.
Speaking of drunk,
I came down from Massachusetts, so I had to go over 195. So.
Oh, the broken bridge.
Yes.
Oh, God bless you. You should get a medal.
Yeah,
The worst, man. But I really feel like we could take the paranormal and have a bigger spiritual conversation that doesn't have to be religious, but it has to be thoughtful. And maybe we can realize that we're not so different after all. And while we're here, we could probably be doing a hell of a lot better job of helping each other through this human experience and just tearing each other down all the damn time.
And that's a message that carries across so many layers right now in what's going on in this country. I mean, you're so right. People are divided on so many different things right now, and that is so true. That we need to understand there are differences and just respect that.
Yeah.
And
we
in
have
the
to
end,
look for the similarities.
we're just human beings, all trying to make it, through this. And we need to respect that.
But this is what I've always loved about Dustin, because I mean, I've been friends with you online for years, and we've crossed paths. But I've always loved how the paranormal brought you to this place where you want to help other people. You want to use the audience that you've built over the years to try to inspire people. I mean, every couple of days you post the suicide hotline number on your Instagram and your Facebook and all of that stuff. Yeah. And, which I think is a good thing because we could also blame television shows like Ghost Hunters for getting so many people into this field to do the opposite, which is to just satisfy themselves.
Right.
So it's good that you're trying to speak out for the other side of what it could be.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I just, I love what I do. I love the spiritual aspect of it. I love ghost hunting. But for me, the thing that means the most is going out to events, meeting people, and maybe saying that one or two things that makes a difference for somebody in that audience, and that's what I'm all about. And I love spooky season. I love ghosts and all that thing. But for me, it's more about helping people going through this human experience. That's the part that I can focus on. We alluded earlier with the idea of trapped spirits and stuff. I don't know if I personally believe that. And if I did, I don't think I have the tools to help them move along,
Right.
But I know that I can have a conversation with somebody and I could listen to somebody. And that's the thing I try to remind people. You don't have to be on TV. You don't have to do anything of grandeur at all in this damn life to make a difference for somebody else, sometimes you just got to listen to them. Sometimes people just need to unload the shit that's weighing them down and just listen to them, man. And everybody has that opportunity to show kindness every day. And that ripple effect could really make a change. You know, like I posted some Christian thing this morning on Twitter, and some guy just wrote, ha, 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 ha. And I was like, hey, man, I'm like, you're entitled to whatever your opinion is, but keep in mind, we're all swimming in the same pool here. So if you decide that you want to make something negative and dark, well, now we all got to deal with it. You know, if you want to pick the swimming pool in the backyard, you also have to swim in it, or you can try to purify it and make it better for everybody. And so that's what I'm trying to get people to think about. Let's just try to make it better for all of us.
Well, and it's
he's
not
going to make me cry.
No, but and to your point, it's
now
not
let's scare
just
Scott.
Yes, maybe it was a Christian, a Christian saying or something, but the meaning behind it was just trying to be uplifting.
Right.
So
I'm not trying to
believe,
baptize you. I'm not trying to baptize you through Twitter. It's just a message of love.
Exactly.
Negative people want to pull other people down,
and it says more about themselves than it's an introspection on more about themselves than you. And it is interesting.
Some people want that attention too, and I always try to remind people, like, listen, don't return anger for anger or hate for hate. Like, that's Martin Luther King said that. Like, that's never going to do anything to help the light. Throwing darkness on top of darkness. So I always just stay true to the message of love. Like, listen, I'm just trying to uplift you. Like, if you want to be, you want to be a jerk about it, that's up to you.
Right.
It's not going to make your day any better either.
And it's not that, but it's not that difficult to be nice to people. It really isn't.
Or just ignore something.
Sometimes it is.
Well, I mean, if they're an asshole, but
sometimes it's really hard.
But it's not
depending on who the person is.
It's not that difficult. And I'll give you an example. So, I worked for a medical company during the day, and we had a downsizing back in February, and a guy reached out to me about a month ago and was like, hey, you used to work for this other company. They're looking for someone. I've been out of work since February. I haven't landed anywhere. And he's the only one that I know of that hadn't landed somewhere yet. I talked to the guy for about an hour. This guy was so down in the dumps and down on himself because people in interviews were like, oh, you've been out of work since February. How come you haven't landed anywhere? It's like, I don't know, because the job market in our industry sucks. We're going through a contraction right now. Don't treat me like I'm an asshole because of it. And I ended up hooking up with someone from my old company, and he ended up getting the job. And he's so appreciative. And all it took for me was an hour conversation to say, look, man, that has nothing to do with you. Someone wants to know how come you still don't have a job. Because I was the second choice candidate on 5 other jobs. And the only thing that differentiated me and the person that got the job was they had more contacts in the accounts. It's sales. They had more contacts in the accounts. It had nothing to do with my skill set or anything like that. That was it. And he kind of adopted that attitude, and he ended up landing the job. And all it took was just being nice. And I'm not trying to pat myself on the back. All I'm saying is, it's not that difficult. It's not that difficult to take your time out of someone's day. You can make a real
difference too.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I gotta say, now Dustin, but others from particularly the Ghost Hunters TV show, any member who from that show that I've met or have had a chance to interview have all been like you, like very positive. Just want to help people. Want to be there for people. Yeah. And you all just kind of fell into something that made you famous.
Thanks,
but
man.
that says something for the group. That says something for TAPS itself, is the character of the people that are part of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
you know what
I'm
I
very
mean?
fortunate
And not
to
just
fall in with some really good people, because it's it could have gone the other way too, right? Like you never know. You never know what team you get drafted to.
Right.
Well, and for me, as I was cautiously brought into this world, you not just TAPS, because meeting Jason and all these guys, but also Rise Up Paranormal and Ken DaCosta and everything.
That was what attracted me to Rise Up Paranormal. Was they were such good guys,
right?
And they had such a we all just clicked on the same levels for everything,
right?
And I felt like family as soon as I joined Rise.
And what I notice is all of the people like yourself, Dustin. when they go and do investigations, they want to help these people out that are having these questions of what's going on in my house, what's going on with this unexplained thing that's happening to me, and people go in and do these investigations to try to get these people answers to help them out, because these people are living in fear or living in this shadow of something that they don't understand. So we want to go help these people out.
At least to be more comfortable. Maybe
so they can understand what they're dealing with.
Maybe the noises still continue, but they're not afraid anymore.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm thankful to say I feel like everybody in the group on the show and off the show, nobody was there to try to make anything sensational. Nobody ever tried to make anything scary. If anything, we went out of our way to try to disprove things or explain things and just get people to understand it. And it's tough, you know, like I go to a lot of events and very thankful to have these opportunities. I meet a lot of people and I just hear some people just within the first minute you meet them. Oh, I've been dealing with the demonic attachment for 20 years and this, and I'm like, and I'm not saying these things can't happen, but I want to just remind them like that also might not be the case, you know?
Right.
And because some people want that attention. Other people have watched things or been a part of things that are so sensationalistic that they believe it's all to be true now. And I just feel like it's a very rare thing if you come across something like that. And it can't be, you know, 35 people in the first hour I'm at a convention.
Right. Exactly.
That's not quite right, you know, but and I feel bad because I never judge the person by it because I just feel like you're a product of your experiences and what you've been shown. You know, we're constantly viewing media, listening to media, absorbing media, and we get swayed one way or another. You know, and that's everything. That's everything. It's not just the paranormal; it's everything within our world. Like to talk about our other conversation, like people get politically against each other and they hate each other, and there's so much misinformation. So just strip away that stuff and just. No, there's never been a candidate that ran for any office anywhere that I was so like enamored with.
Yeah, right.
Everything I love. You're wonderful.
Never.
I've always had to work 2 jobs. I've always had to bust my ass, and that's fine. But I'm never going to totally show blind allegiance to somebody that I've never even met. That's probably a puppet for people that we'll never even see. So don't worry about like not inviting, your uncle to Thanksgiving because he talks about things that you don't like.
That you don't agree with.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, it's funny you brought up your other job because that's where we had the brush. It was towards the tail end of COVID. We were all still wearing masks. And you work in an office where obviously we had to wear masks. My daughter was getting her wisdom teeth out.
Oh, okay.
And we were checking out, and we see this guy behind the desk, and I go, I recognize that hair. And I turn to my daughter, Sam. I go, do you know who that is? She goes, no. I go, that's Dustin from Ghost Hunters. She goes, what? Because she's met Jay and I think, and Satori and Cody.
Yeah. It was a lot higher back then, too.
It was. I was going to say, you trimmed it down.
We just got it taken down because I only have 1 day off this month in October, and it's for a wedding. So I'm going to get back to get my hair cut before the wedding. So I had to get it chopped low all month.
So we'll have to,
I have the same problem, Dustin. Same exact problem.
Only it's all in the back.
I got mine much lower though than yours.
So
I
expect a tall hair pick by the on my email by the end of October.
Oh my God! In like 7 days' time, it'll be like that. It grows.
Oh really? Yeah. It grows that fast?
Yeah, the facial hair not so much. This is about 10 days of growth.
Now you're really making Scott feel bad that you're saying it's only going to take 7 days to grow that back.
No, he made me feel better with the facial hair.
Oh, all right, yeah.
This doesn't grow at all. It's
Ace has been growing but Ace has been growing a beard for 6 months. And that's all he has. So
please,
don't feel bad.
I'm on testosterone shots. That's the only thing that's helping my scruff.
Is there anything we can promote for you?
Yeah, you mentioned
got
the
anything
book
coming
before,
up?
right?
Book?
He's got books. He's got coloring books.
I'm sure he's got tons of stuff, but
podcasts,
website,
YouTube channels,
podcast, anything.
Yeah, DustinPari.com is the link for pretty much everything. All my books are on there. I've written 5 books, 2 with Barry Fitzgerald, 3 on my own, and then we've got over a dozen of my spooky pages, Halloween coloring books. And I also do some mental health coloring books that some therapists have been using. Helps people kind of open up and talk about how they feel. And I got a little YouTube station too. Nothing's going viral because I'm not a cute girl unboxing things, but I get a lot of motivational things. And I started. You guys know Chris Williams from Ghost Hunters and GHI. We have a YouTube project called Rebellious Spirits. And so the two of us do a YouTube show there, and we're actually doing some events together. I've got a ton of stuff here in New England all month. So DustinPari.com is where you'll see that, but you'll see 2 nights one at the Leffingwell House down in Connecticut and one at the Oliver House in Massachusetts with myself and Chris Williams. We're doing some Rebellious Spirits events there, so it should be a wonderful time.
Oh, that's awesome. Cool. We'll have to look it up, and we're obviously recording this a little bit earlier than Scottober, so that it can come out in Scottober. But
sure.
It's the first episode of Scottober, and what a good one it is.
It is, yeah. No, but what I'm saying is I want to look up the events, and maybe we'll go to one.
Yes, we should.
We should. We get to one.
We always try to check something out during Scottober.
Yeah.
And for anybody listening, go to the show notes in case you missed it, and I will have a link to his website in the show notes. You could check out his books, any of his appearances, anything like that. Everything Dustin Pari will be at that website.
Yeah. And Tom, did you have one last question?
Well, I was going to mention something 3 topics ago.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, go ahead.
I do have one question.
Yeah, go ahead. We're just trying to be respectful of your time, especially because we made you wait in the wrong waiting room.
This is a question I plan to ask anybody who's in the paranormal field and the show business end of it.
Yeah.
Is it coming to an end? Like, it seems like it's fizzling. There's not as many TV shows.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of the expos are starting to shut down.
I think
how are you feeling?
I'm doing well. I mean, I never left the day job. I never left healthcare because I never thought TV would be a forever thing, you know?
Yeah.
And also I was just getting married and my daughter was just being born. So it was hard for me to really want to commit to the show. But I feel like TV has changed. You know, we don't watch TV like we used to anymore anyway.
No.
Everything's YouTube, TikTok, Netflix. So the places that you go for your paranormal entertainment has changed. And as far as conventions and such, I'm still, thankful enough. I think we're going to do about 80 by the time the year's over.
Wow.
So I'm very busy with that. But a lot of the big things, the big ticket expos and stuff, I think everyone's just feeling the pinch. Like I went to get a half gallon of eggnog at the Shaw's Market the other day.
Oh,
please. It was $8.99. $8.99
for a half gallon
of eggnog.
Yeah.
Wow.
I was like, good thing my freaking truck doesn't run on eggnog. I'd never go anywhere.
Yeah, right.
Unbelievable. Yeah. So I think everyone's pockets being picked a little bit. Things are tight. But no, I think
Dustin, you're showing your age when you call it the Shaw's Market.
The Shaw's, yeah,
the Shaw's Market.
The Shaw's Market.
Exactly.
But I think that the paranormal is always going to be there. I mean, it's been around since Ed and Lorraine Warren. It's been around since Hans Holzer. It's been around since great investigators, who've done a lot more than even I have, and many, many moons ago. And we're still interested in it. And I think it's good that we'll always ask these questions. And I want us to never honestly have all the answers, because who wants to read the end of the book, right? This is our human experience. I want there to be some surprise ending when I get to the end. I want to see, and for me, it's going to be Jesus and Elvis and some mozzarella sticks. I think that would be perfect.
Yeah.
And I hope that's all there when I get there.
I'm guessing that he really likes mozzarella sticks. That's the second time he brought up mozzarella sticks on the show.
It's my favorite food stuff. Like, I love pizza too.
We'll
but there's something that's like a tactile response, like the crunchiness of the mozzarella stick on the outside and the ooey gooey,
chewy gooey.
It's funny you say that, because someday when I'm at the gates of heaven, I want them to say welcome. There's seating in the front. The concert starts at 8. It starts with Mozart, then Elvis, and then it finishes with Jimi Hendrix.
Nice. Good lineup.
And grab your mozzarella sticks on the way to the seat.
And it's all you can eat mozzarella sticks.
Yeah, exactly.
You guys are down there, and I know where you're at down there. You're not far from Silver Lake Pizza. That's
we just had Silver Lake Pizza tonight before the show. Again. Next time, man, you gotta come into the Acement. We'll have you back
next October. We're going to have Silver Lake Pizza and mozzarella sticks.
Mozzarella sticks and fine bourbon.
It's a date. It's a date.
All right, you got it, Dustin.
All right.
Again, we can't thank you so much.
Yeah,
thanks so much, Dustin.
My pleasure, man. Thank you all so very much. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Take care, man.
All right. Have a good night, guys.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
And that was Dustin Pari, everybody. Man, what a great guy. Such a positive message.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which I absolutely, love that so many of these guys do have that same type of attitude that
They
that
do.
he
They have
has.
a real positive human type of attitude, and it's refreshing.
Ken DaCosta's always been like that ever since we met
Everybody
him.
at Rise Up's
Everyone.
like that.
You know,
and he
and-
mentioned Taps. Even
All the guys
there's-
at Taps.
People don't realize there's a Taps home team that's not on TV. They are actually
Right.
the people going out and investigating the,
Locally,
the
yeah, right.
the
Right.
cases that aren't on TV, and they're all
Yeah.
super nice too. I've been able to spend time with them on investigations, and they're all super nice too. And it's
mean-
not always like that with paranormal.
No, exactly.
Sure.
And you would think, like, Ace has introduced me to Jason Hawes, and he's been the lead guy, obviously on the TV show, and he's just so down to earth and nice and easy
How many
to talk
times
to.
do we get, like, I'll get a random text, you guys going for cigars tonight? And he'll meet us at Mr. J's Cigar Bar.
And we'll hang out with him and just chat with him, and he's just easy to
And
talk
it's
to.
not
and
always
stuff.
about paranormal either.
No, we just chat
hang
about
out,
anything.
you know?
Probably
And-
doesn't want to talk.
No,
about
exactly.
And I want to ask him questions about it, but I'm like, my God, that's like asking a doctor medical
Yeah, right.
questions,
Yeah.
But whenever I do ask questions, I go, you probably don't want to talk about this, but I do have a question. He's like, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
That's,
Yeah. Well, he knows. I mean, that's it's been his life for
Right.
over 20
and
years.
everyone's
he's
interested
always,
in it.
He's always cool about it. Which I appreciate. But last time we were there, I didn't ask him any questions on purpose because I'm like, I don't want to be that
Right.
guy.
See, I would have to just stop from fanboying.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
what
I know.
I told Ace last time we were there with him, I can't fanboy out this time. I gotta not ask any questions.
Or worse, I'll nerd out because I'm so into this.
Yeah,
stuff.
I'm just asking.
Right.
And I get really into the weeds with these people, and before you know it, we're talking a language no one else knows.
Right, I'm
Right.
asking the stupid fanboy questions. You're asking the in-depth tech questions.
And I just ask him plumbing questions.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
He's a very good
he'd rather
expert on
talk
those,
about
too.
that.
Yeah.
Ace has him at his house on a Saturday with a plunger.
Yeah, exactly.
But anyway, thank you so much for tuning in.
What a great way to start off Scottober.
Every
was
year,
fantastic.
the two of you find a way to start off Scottober with a
The
bang.
bar is set high.
Yes,
And
it is.
That's another great one to last year. Between Steve
Gonzalez,
Gonzalez,
yep.
in previous years, and this one, every year is always.
My
a great
goal is to get
conversation.
every Ghost Hunters person on.
You're slowly chipping away.
One a year.
Did you hear me though? When he said, "I don't know if you know Chris Williams," I'm like, "Oh, I know Chris Williams."
Yeah. She had to block you, I think.
Yeah.
didn't she?
No, she was actually pretty cool. She posted some meme about, like, it was like a cartoon figure next to Jason Momoa coming out of the water, and she goes, "Me and my fiance." So I took a picture of her and drew a stick figure behind it with with the stick figure's like hands on her shoulders, like I was standing behind her, and I said, "By the way, our engagement photo came in," and she actually laughed at it.
I thought you were going to say you put your face on Jason Momoa.
No, that would have been a good idea. Damn. All right, next time.
Anyway, once again, thank you for tuning in. If you want to check out Dustin Pari's website, the link is in the show notes. Definitely check him out because, as you could hear, he's a great guy.
Yeah.
Lot of knowledge
So
when it comes to the
animated. I love-
paranormal side, but a very positive, very motivating guy, a very animated guy, very passionate guy.
Yeah, definitely.
So-
And he'll make you feel good just being in his presence.
Definitely
Yeah,
did.
And I was like half joking when I said I'm going to cry. I was going to cry just because he makes you feel so good just talking to him. I had such a shit bag week.
He almost
And-
makes you feel
and
believe in the world.
I
again.
felt like I was getting a hug from him. It's
Hey,
just one of
listen,
those
I
ones.
felt I was getting a hug when we started talking mozzarella sticks, and he brought up Silver Lake Pizza, and it's literally right down the street. I'm like, that's how we're getting them back. We're gonna get Silver Lake mozzarella
I don't know how
sticks.
you guys are going to top the rest of the month.
No
There
shit.
we go.
Yeah,
Well,
we don't either.
Buckle up. No, buckle up.
No,
we
we
got
got
some
some stuff
It'll
in
be
the
good.
works.
So there we go.
But
Thanks, guys.
Thanks again.
Thanks for checking out this episode with me and my friends, Scott Higgins and Ace Aceto, and of course our guest, the amazing Dustin Pari, on the Behind the Funny podcast. You can check out their podcast anywhere you get podcasts. And you can check out Dustin Pari at his website, dustinpari.com. You can look for him at Paracons and expos all over the country. And don't forget to check out his books and coloring books on Amazon.com. Thanks for listening. I'm Tom Stewart, and this is My Paranormal Story.